Yes, indeed, folks. You're tuning to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. Yes, indeed. I have a couple of emails here. I've got one about the WoW faction change, so I'm going to read that before we get on to the next topic. Some sort of level 80 mage and Nordrasil EU. He says this: as you were talking about the WoW faction change, it got me thinking. I think it would be a very good idea, rather than pay and change race, to make it so you pay the fee, which unlocks a quest in the game. You would have to do something for, say, the undead, and that would bring you to betraying your own faction. I could see it being a very good quest line. It would be a much better thing to do rather than just change. It would be nice, you know? It would be nice, like, hey, look, the Horde has humans now, or whatever, and just I don't know, that would be kind of a cool dynamic. I think there's RP possibilities. You know, treasure the thought. Also got one about Exodus here, and it's from Lauren Rude, and he or she says this: I was listening to your show, and the whole time I was drawn back to EQ1 days. EverQuest's third expansion, Guards of Velius, had one of their first scripted events on the last fight in a dungeon called Sleeper's Tomb. The setup was 4 dragons or warders had another dragon, the Sleeper, locked up. Guilds on all servers were able to kill the first 3 warders, but for a long time were banging their heads against the wall on the last one. A guild, and I can't remember the name of them for the life of me, exploited a Zen Axis bub to pop the 4th warder. I can't remember all the details, but basically they used a pally with some sort of item that did a complete health heal and drug the final warder on top of a shallow bridge, put the paladin underneath the bridge, and put all the aggro on the pally by spamming the item. The dragon apparently couldn't attack through the bridge, and they dropped the warder. My understanding was EQ didn't have the entire script finished for the zone because of all sorts of obvious things that happened when the final warder dropped, but this final warder was supposed to be a huge cockblock while they finished the script. Sony had 5 GMs in the zone watching the entire fight, but they were invisible and not showing up on the zone list. Needless to say, the guild got banned and a ton of controversy ensued, like this Exodus stuff. That's actually very similar, because the way that Exodus actually exploited this was they had a healer spam inside the, whatever it is, it's the dream state kind of area. Whatever it is, it's an off-map area. Yeah, that's how the Yogg Saron fights. I'm not going to spoil it for those of you who haven't done it. And they kept doing that, and they got aggro by spamming the heals, but the mobs, of course, couldn't attack the healer, so all they did was evade bug and just stood there. Obvious exploit. But yeah, it does sound kind of similar. And yes, I'm glad they did get banned. Admittedly, I don't like deliberate cock blocks. You know, I think that's kind of cheap. But we can also come to the conclusion, perhaps, that Yogg Zero was not supposed to be killed with the kind of gear that we have right now. It's entirely possible. Whether or not that should be the case, well, that's another discussion for another time, and you know what, we might cover it on a future show. But whatever the case, Blizzard do need to be asked the question, why the hell was the fight like this to begin with, where people would willingly take such desperate measures? You know, as bastard cheaters that they are, xenophobic, racist, bastard cheaters that Exodus obviously happen to be, you know, and don't say I'm misconstruing anything or slandering them or accusing them of whatever, because I took all that from their front page post, their official statement, they at least had some vague excuse for doing what they were doing. Vague excuse. You know, certainly not going to defend them, but come on. Why make an encounter like that? At least be official as to whether or not you're supposed to be able to kill that fight with the current level of gear that we have. Right, now, got more stuff to talk about, so I better get right on with it. Now, this is, well, I've received a number of emails about this, so I can basically paraphrase them into one. Regarding Tier 9. Now, here's the first stupid thing about Tier 9, and this links in quite nicely to last week. More drama, thanks to badge changes. Confirmed. By running normal Utgard Keep, you're going to be able to get an entire set of Tier 9. And you might think that's hyperbole. It isn't. I'm really sorry to tell you this, it's not hyperbole. You can actually do it. All of the Tier 9 pieces will be available for purchase with Emblems of Triumph, meaning you can get the entire set. Now, how do you get Emblems of Triumph? Well, there's the proper way, by killing content that actually, you know, deserves that kind of level of gear, and there's the cheap, scrubby way, which is doing daily quests which reward the emblems, and you can get 3 of these things a day. Now, I honestly don't care whether or not it takes you 5 minutes or a million years to get this gear. You don't deserve it, period. If all you do is run those instances, you do not deserve a set of Tier 9. God. And what are you talking about? Why would you deserve that? I can't figure it out. I was gobsmacked by that. Absolutely gobsmacked. Did Blizzard even engage their brains these days? It's like, hey, right, you know what, let's just give in to the whiners. Happy money. We've got to make everyone happy. We'll make all the scrubs happy, keep them playing. Endgame guys know more about MMOs. They're likely to go and play other games, because they realise the potential of other MMOs. Not the scrubs. The scrubs are going to play this game because they don't know any better. So better keep them happy. Give them free tier 9. Here you go. Go run some Utgard Keep. Really hard. Maybe some Azul Narub. Go and have a look at Mr. Anubarak and see whether or not Azul Narub was merely a setback. Don't even get me started on that crap. Good lord. And I can understand the Tempest Keep thing. I mean, he wasn't dead, but I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I killed Anubarak. Pretty sure. I'm extremely sure, in fact, that I killed Anubarak. Why exactly is he coming back? I mean, come on. What, did we just knock him out a little bit? You know? Oh, KO! And then he gets thrown in a net and dragged back to the Colosseum. Come on! Really? Don't be ridiculous. So stupid. Anyway. Tier 9. That was the one complaint about Tier 9, but oddly enough, the main complaints that I've been getting via email and Twitter and such things are actually about the way Tier 9 looks, as opposed to the fact that any scrub who runs a bunch of dailies can get a full set of Tier 9 for absolutely nothing whatsoever. Really shows the priorities of the community, yes. True golf club there, well done. Right. Tier 9 apparently looks terrible, and you can check out the looks on MMO Champion. Now, I was looking at it, and it looks pretty good, but here's the thing. It's not a full set of items, yeah? It's not like each class has a full different set. You've got these sets which look relatively similar. Yeah, let's compare. The Alliance Priest and the Alliance Warlock, yeah? They look exactly the same, except one is a slightly different colour to the other. Same with Alliance Mage. Also looks the same. But it's got magey colours. Lazy. That's one way of putting it. So, you've got a generic cloth set. You've got your Hunter set, which looks unique, actually. Evidently, the Hunters actually get a unique set. I'd imagine probably not. I imagine they probably share it with the Shamans, but I can't see any proof of that on here. The Rogues and Druids get the same set. So you basically got a set of plate, a set of leather, a set of mail, and a set of cloth. And they're themed Alliance and Horde. Now, I can understand that, really, but wow, how dull. Honestly. It's not the first time this has happened, though. You've got to bear this in mind. There have been a number of sets that have looked absolutely terrible and are blatantly just either placeholder models or Blizzard just couldn't be bothered to generate anything good. Prime example. Pretty much all of the cloth armor in AQ40. Yeah, I'm talking Enigma, I'm talking Doomcaller, also known as the little spikes on the shoulder set. They looked so bad, you have no idea. There were some better sets in there. I mean, the plate one was okay, but jeez. The cloth set looked absolutely abysmal. And Sunwell as well. Now, the tiered stuff in Sunwell, of course, was minor stuff like boots, because they expanded the set to 8 pieces. Tier 6, they expanded to 8 pieces. But there were also a bunch of non-set items, and particularly the shoulders is what I had a look at on Wowhide. If you have a look at all the shoulders in Sunwell Plateau, they all share the model of the Brutal Gladiator's shoulders. Every single last one of them. And bear in mind, of course, the shoulders are one of the most prominent items. You know, they're very, very visual, more visual than perhaps anything else you wear. So, having that share with PvP gear of all things, that got a few complaints back in the day as well. It's like, hey, we just beat Kill Jaden and we've got gear that looks like we've been doing PvP. And of course the same thing happened with PvP gear back in the Burning Crusade in general. We just look at, say, Season 1 Gladiators gear. It was a recolored Tier 4, then we had a recolored Tier 5, then a recolored Tier 6. And then we had what was effectively Tier 7 level gear, also recolored in Season 4. That's just the way it worked. Now, it doesn't work that way in, at least as far as I can tell anyway, it hasn't worked that way in Wrath. I haven't seen any blatant copies there. You know, we don't get a recolored version of Frostfire or whatever in Arenas. They've actually differentiated the gear somewhat. And you can say whatever you like about the PvP gear not looking all that great, but at least they've made the distinction. And this is getting a lot of complaints. Now, there's a couple of issues that I've got with it. The first one is, do people legitimately have the right to complain about this, particularly considering previous instances? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, people complained about the tier 2, it was a tier 2.5 it was called, and people also complained about the Sunwell stuff. Were they right to do so? Well, yeah. I'm sorry, if you get a latest piece of shiny static gear, the last thing you want it to look like is that it's been made out of paper mache. And that's what Enigma and all that other stuff did. It's like I built something out of Play-Doh and stick it on my shoulders, little spikes in there. You know, maybe get a pencil and start sticking holes in it. Yeah, that was artistic when I was 3 years old, not really anymore. The problem is, right, that there's not enough in the game to differentiate people already. This is something that's particularly problematic with Wrath, because everyone and their mother has at least tier 7. At least tier 7. So you've got everybody. You can't really flounce around in tier 7 or 7.5 or whatever and look proud in it because everyone and their mother's got it. And that's what's going to happen with Ulduar as well when the badge changes come in. And here's the big deal. Now it is going to be multiplied, it's going to be magnified. It's going to have so many people looking exactly the same, because everyone can now get tier 9. Everybody. So, there's not going to be a single person, unless they're incredibly lazy, that is not looking the same as everyone else. Really. All of these pieces, you can just look at them right now. Now imagine a world where everyone looks like this. Imagine a world where you only have 4 different ways of looking, and it depends on what armor type you're wearing. Every mage is going to look like that. Every priest, every hunter, every shaman, every death knight. All of them are going to look like that. Because the combination of allowing you to get a full set of tier 9 for doing dailies, and the fact that all of the sets basically look the same, is going to mean that your entire raid, and indeed the entire contents of every city, is going to look identical. There is nothing to differentiate people. Now the question is, should that matter to you? So arguments have been made that the idea is you're being issued military level gear. You are the military. You're being prepared by the Argent Crusade to go and invade Icecrown. Military feel. Well, I don't care. Honestly, that's RP lore crap. I don't care about that. What I care about is looking unique, because the avatar represents all of the work that you've put into the game, right? And how your avatar looks is important, because you've invested a lot of time. And if you've got a really cool piece of gear, you want to be able to show it off. And the best way to show it off is, of course, the visual impact. Now, if everyone looks the same, you can't really show that off, can you? That's why people try and get individual-looking mounts and stuff like that. We'll go through hell and high water for such a thing. They really do. It really matters to them. And you might think it's a little bit silly, but me as a raider, yeah, it actually does matter that my character looks relatively unique. Now, of course, I have an advantage because I'm a troll, and only the top 3% of the player base plays troll. That's a valid statistic, you can go look it up. So, there's not an awful lot of trolls, and not an awful lot of them look like me. But it's just upsetting to think that every mage in the game is going to have these damn shoulders. Every mage in the game is going to wear this robe, but thank God they put a robe in this time instead of that freaking pyjama set that they put in for tier 8.5. So yeah, you do have the right to be bothered by that. They look nice, don't get me wrong, and I understand that Blizzard are, saving resources, but the problem with the Colosseum is that the Colosseum in general looks like a slapdash job. It's the first major raid instance, in fact it's the first raid instance period, that they've put in the game that doesn't have a bunch of really cool lore surrounding it and is full of villains, yeah? It's not a lair, eh? Every instance up until now has been a lair, yeah? Mount Hyjal had Archimonde in it. Black Temple, Illidan in it. Ragnaros was in Molten Core. Nefarian's lair, Blackwing lair. Oh look, lair. All of them, from the smallest to the largest, they were lairs in one way or another. The Colosseum is the first one that isn't. And there's not a good reason for that either. It's just an arena. It's a sporting event, as it were. So, that's the problem I've got with the Colosseum. You've got an instance which signifies and represents generic in every possible way. Yeah? The whole place looks generic. Hopefully the bosses won't be generic, although from the looks of it, it's like, hey, it's a giant worm. Woo, haven't fought those before. The setting is generic, and it's not a lair. So you don't get that epic feel. And yes, the epic feel matters. Of course it does. That's half of the reason people raid, to get that epic feel of killing an epic boss, and then they get the epic loot. If they don't get the epic feel, because all they're in is a sporting arena, Well, they might as well go do PvP. The whole point is to raid epic bosses, get epic loot, and look different to everyone else. Not the same. I might just stick with my 7.5. My name is Total Biscuit. Listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Get in your topics for the illusion of choice, folks. Yes, the illusion of choice. The Murloc at gmail.com. That is the Murloc at gmail.com. And I'll be right back after this. Enjoy.